I'll tell you, first impressions are everything, and I didn't make a good one with this crowd, so please forgive me. Today started with car troubles with the family car, so a trip to Waycross and back, and then Jekyll Island. Booked a couple of speaking engagements. This was on coastal resiliency. I was on a panel on Tybee. On my way back, we ran into some babysitting troubles, and I'll get into that as to why I moved to St. Simon's 3 years ago. My daughter, Mary Caitlin, I have two daughters. One's not married, one is. Mary Caitlin was the second wedding in front of Hollyborn about 7 years ago. Right, Bruce? Bruce was in charge. He ushered my wife through it politely. That led to 2 sets of twins being born in 18 months. Wow. So let that settle in for a little bit. So thus my scraggly hair, we ran into a babysitting emergency on my way back, and I had to stay there until everything was took care of. But anyway, I'm so glad to be here tonight. Bruce, I like being introduced just with my name, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about my background. I taught school and coached football in Lowndes County. I coached under the great tutelage of a coach named Nick Hyder at Valdosta High School and taught science. 3 years after that, I moved to Jessup and took over my wife's father's real estate business. He really wanted to be a farmer, so he did a little real estate in the morning, then went home and farmed. He passed away, and I became the broker there and did that for 27 years. Our farm home is out at Lake Grace, if you're familiar with the Wayne County area. So we lived there, and the legislative seat came open, and Henson Mosley retired, the long-time serving legislator there, and I ran for that seat and was successful. So I served in the House two terms and was going into my 3rd term, which would have been my 5th year as a legislator representing Wayne, Pierce, and Brantley's. Was in Kansas bow hunting and got a call from outgoing Governor Sonny Perdue, incoming Governor Deal, and the Speaker of the House. You had to stand on a hay bale to get a reception, and so we had Blackberries back then. I go stand on the hay bale, and all these 404 numbers start coming through, and I called them in the order they were on my phone. So the speaker said, "Have you talked to Governor-elect Deal?" "No." He said, "Well, call me back." Sonny Perdue was leaving office. He said, "Have you talked to Governor Deal?" I said, "No." He said, "Call me back." And I was like, "Governor, if I'm in trouble, tell me now before I call." And he said, "No, it's all good." So when I finally got to talk to Governor Deal, he offered me the job as DNR commissioner. I didn't pursue it. I was on Game Fish and Parks as one of my committee assignments and loved that committee, but it was a big surprise. And came home and talked to Pam, and sort of the rest is history. I did that for 13 and a half years. This December would have been my 14th year. Was happy there, was going to at least stay through Brian Kemp's term. I felt like 3 governors was enough, and so I was probably coming home anyway. Pam's a retired school teacher. She taught kindergarten for 30 years, and it just takes man-to-man coverage with those babies, I'm telling you. And so there's 2 healthy set of grandparents. We're neighbors on the island, but when Jones announced his retirement, I certainly didn't put my name in the hat at first. I just sort of let the process roll out. I was on the board, and when the couple of applicants or one didn't pan out, Pam was like, "How many times have you got to be knocked over the head?" So I talked to the governor about leaving DNR and wanted to interview with my former board members, and did that and was successful. And I'm just so happy to be here. It's great. DNR, it was the experience with DNR. Historic preservation was under DNR until about 5 years ago. It was moved over to DCA, and it was a smart move. Governor Dill and I talked about it. That was the smallest division in DNR. It's about 25 employees. They were great employees. It's all about historic resources on a statewide level. But DCA is better. Most of the issues with historic pres come from local municipalities, from county commissions and city governments. and they all went to DCA for everything else, and we were sort of a one-off. They'd get through with all their issues with the Department of Community Affairs, and they say, all right, you got to go talk to historic preservation now. And so we felt like it was just better housed there, and so it was just a move from one agency to the other. All the employees went over. Of course, they had different offices, but I really, really enjoyed my work with historic preservation. Under my time, we permitted the Mr. Kessler's big tax credit project at the end of River Street. If y'all been there, it's I forget the name of it, but it's big. And of course, the largest historic tax credit project, I think in North America, I know in Georgia, was the Ponce de Leon City Market in Atlanta, the old Coca-Cola building. And we were in charge of all that. I believe that was north of $250 million in tax credits, but they really did it the right way. It's expensive to do that work, as you all know, on Jekyll, just with our smaller complexes. But so I'm getting my feet on the ground. It's new here. It's a state park, but as I spoke today about coastal resiliency, this role is almost like a city manager as well, or I won't say a mayor because I'm not elected. Nobody that lives here got to vote for me. But we have our own little city here too, with our between 600 and 700 residences that we have on the island. And so that's been new to me. I'm sort of settling into that part of it with trash pickup and water and sewer problems and those type of things that I wasn't used to dealing with. My dad was mayor of a little town called Lake Park, Georgia for about 15 years, and so I remember hearing him talk about it, but it is sort of new to me. But real glad to be here. As I said, my daughter, we chose Jekyll for her wedding, and just a gorgeous wedding there in front of Hollyborn, and the historic resources here are just phenomenal, and I'm not an expert on it. Y'all, there's many in this room that can talk more about it. I just love them. I'm very interested in the history here. I'm more interested in like the Gilded Age part. That just interests me because I dealt with Sapelo during the plantation years and the R.J. Reynolds years and the West family on Ossabal and before that. And so that's what really piques my interest, and just love it. So there's not going to be many changes. We had a little discussion about the splash pad. I think that's a great idea. That was one I just pushed forward. It wasn't one that was really new. It was, I think at the beginning, they just were trying to decide between a splash pad and a fire pit, and they went with the fire pit, and that sort of didn't work out. And so we're excited about the splash pad. I will tell you, I'm excited about its day use, but I'm also excited about, I've been to hotels and places, and I know you have, where there's just a water feature that's got pretty lit water running to sit around. And I think people will enjoy that with our climate a little more than a fireplace. But as far as historic resources go, I just want to keep things going like they're going. The teams have done such a great job of, and don't believe me, I've been tried. I've had folks come to me and say, we need to paint this and we need to do that. And you know, you're new guys in town, so let's see what he thinks. But I have a deep appreciation of historic preservation and keeping the island's image, that's not the right word, it's personality, the same that it's always been. I grew up, I've been coming here since I was 12. I'm what they call a Gale baby, the Georgia Association of Educational Leaders. That's our longest living conference over there. We didn't have any money. Well, we had money. My dad was a principal. His first contract, because I still got it, was for $7,900 at Tallulah Falls School in North Georgia. And Mom taught first and second grade in the same classroom. And so we would travel with a station wagon. This was the vacation we went on, probably because the school system paid for it. But we stayed everywhere from the Wanderer to the Villas by the Sea. Probably till I was 16 or 17, we came to that. And saw the same families every year. We always looked forward to it. There were 4 of us. I'm the third. I have 2 older sisters and a younger brother. But I remember hitting the causeway Mom was a singer because she was a kindergarten teacher. And so we'd sing all the way down till we fell asleep or whatever. You didn't wear seat belts back then. I mean, the only time you wore seat belts if you were getting in trouble. You'd say, you want to put you in your seat belt. Anyway, we're bouncing around, and we would make the turn there, and the causeway looks the same as it did. We got a different gate, but and it was like, we're here, Mom would say, and it was like that was the longest 6 miles because my dad was a stickler. A lot of it was during the Carter in the oil embargo years where everybody, you got to drive 55 and do the speed limit. And anyway, we would just all the way down. When are we going to get there? When we get there, and when Mom would announce we're here, it just seemed like the longest 6 miles. So I grew up once a summer fishing on this same pier, wandering around. Went to the amphitheater at times I think they did wildlife shows or something on that back then. I don't think Valdosta State was doing their plays yet, but had a lot of great memories from Jekyll. So I've been here about as long as Gail because they just celebrated their 60th anniversary. So a little bit about so far with the island. I think the only time the convention center has been empty since I've been here is the day of the hurricane. And that was because the conference left at lunch that day so everybody could get home. But it's really busy. We had our board meeting there the other day, and we were just sort of in one little room, and there were people just running around everywhere. I want to brag on staff. We split the twins up because I will tell you, we during COVID, when we were all staying in, that's tough with 2 sets of twins, and they were a lot younger then. Now they're 5.5 and 3.5. But we split them up, and because if you had to go take shelter, it's just hard. If you had to get in a closet, and so we had one set, and I kept checking in with Noel if I needed to come over. He was over here. They were hunkered down in probably the safest building on the island, in my opinion, which is the Golf Pro Shop. I don't think anything can knock that building over. So they're there, and Thursday morning, hurricane was on Wednesday. We had a tea time at 9 a.m. This mosaic was open at regular time. The Sea Turtle Center had to take some things down, or put some things back up, the mirrors, so they waited till lunch, and we checked in 110 campers. And I'm just amazed at this staff. I had 2,600 employees at DNR, and these 300, I'd just be careful. He's videotaping me, but they're as good as I've seen, maybe even better than the DNR employees. Just to be able to, they knew Labor Day was coming and what was coming to this island to see a good time. And people coming across there, they're just expecting it to look good and for Labor Day weekend. And it was just like ants running around the historic district. And then they got everything up in piles, and now, except for some yards I ride around and see, pretty much everything's cleaned up. I think Noel said it was about half of what we put in the landfill from Matthew in the way of tons, but it was pretty amazing to see everybody pull together and have sort of that whatever it takes attitude to get things cleaned up. And luckily, we had no damage to our historic resources. We had a tree fall on Villa Aspa, but that was like a week before, and that's already been repaired. So moving forward, I'm going to stop and let y'all ask questions, and I really appreciate it. I hope everybody had an extra glass of wine because I was late. Those are on me, Bruce, if it ran over, because where was I at? I lost my complete train of thought there, but moving forward, I think from a historic resource, we've got a big event coming up with the Tiffany window, and thank y'all so much. Those are the kind of things it's hard to ask for. Well, you know our budget, we have a big budget here, but we have a lot of capital needs, and so where y'all step in and fill those gaps is so important. And this will be my first experience with one of y'all's grants, and so thank you. Tom and I talked about, I know the windows ready, we know all that, but doing it on that historic day, I think will bring a lot to the moment, and so I'm looking forward to that. Otherwise, I don't think you'll see any changes in how we handle our historic resources or our conservation measures. We do need to be conscious island-wide on prescribed fire. I think the Big Island in Hawaii has opened a lot of eyes for islanders. Those things we're going to get lightning strikes out here just like they do. Just the fact that we're on an island. While I was at DNR, we had 4,200 acres burn on Sapelo. Osabal's had their fires, Cumberland's had their fires. And so Hank presented his prescribed fire plan. That's all online if y'all want to go look at that. We're a tight community here, and I would have to announce in the local papers our SOP on burning I had 60 state parks as the DNR commissioner, all the way from Cloudland Canyon to Stephen Foster. And we would burn those for wildlife mainly to provide great habitat, but also for safety reasons for our buildings and stuff. And so, but we didn't have 600 houses right around it to have to smell that smoke every day and do all that. So I would ask for patience, and we'll keep communication going, but we've got to do something about the amount of litter that's building up, or we're just building our own Kinderbox here. And so I'm gonna say that to Rotary. I'm gonna say that to everybody. I don't know that I'll leave that up to Yank, but we will communicate all of that through. I never can think of the app's name, but the one you get your alerts on, Nixle. And I am terrible with technology. I'll just go ahead and admit that. I don't do Facebook. My wife does enough for both of us. I got off of it about 10 years ago as commissioner. We have 800,000 licensed hunters and 1.2 million licensed anglers in this state. And those numbers is how many opinions there are about how you manage wildlife. And I would spend my time, because I've got the personality where I want to answer everybody, but the discussions would get so long, and then I would stop, and they'd say, oh, he's just one of those Atlanta guys. He ain't got time for us. And I'd been on there for 30 minutes with them. And so I said, well, I can't really win there, but I just do Instagram. I love just looking at people's pictures and seeing their grandkids without all the commentary. But Facebook's great. My wife loves it. She's probably on it right now. But so if you need, I just didn't want anybody to think I was ignoring them on Facebook. I'm just not there. So, Bruce, I don't know how long you wanted me to talk. That's sort of my philosophy. Jones did such a great job with the island and the balance that we have to strike here that I just want to keep those things going and keep Jekyll special like it is. We have to generate money, so our water park and those things have to do it because, as you know, we don't receive state funding. We did for the convention center. If we've got a big ticket item, we certainly will ask them for some help, but for our operations, we do not. Can we talk a little bit about golf? First thing is I'm terrible. I measure my round by how many balls I still have left in my bag. Luckily, they do a pretty good job over there with the rough areas, so you can find them. I'm learning, and I want to do a lot better. I actually played tennis in college, but I do love golf, and it's a fun sport. Pine Lakes will close in January or end of December. I think Noel's got it scheduled for. It's not getting a lot of major renovations. It's getting some expensive stuff done, but a lot of it's going to be under the ground. So when we do everything, we're tied into, you won't have to walk out there and do this kind of thing to turn the sprinklers on every morning. And some new grass, and I forget the whole numbers, but there are some greens that are going to be moved and changed and tee boxes, but basically when you play it, it'll be the same. I've met with our golf designers twice for what will become a Great Dunes 18-hole course, which will be 9 holes, the original 9 holes, but you will be playing from the pro shop as it sits now. And so you'll be playing the front 9 of Oleander, which will essentially be sort of the front 9 of the new Great Dunes course. You'll leave the woods, go out on the beach, you'll come back through the woods, a little bit of maritime forest in between, and come back through the woods and then back to the clubhouse. What has impressed me, and it's my first dealings with golf designers about this team, was they spent as much time with Faith at historic Pres just about as they did out in the field. There are some great pictures that our historic people have of golfers back in the Gilded Age, I'd say 1910 to 20, standing on greens or standing on fairways when they used to play golf across the road as well. I forgot how many holes were over there, but and they're really the first rendition we've gotten for us to look over. They've tried to capture that. A lot of big sand bunkers, you know, that are natural, a lot of natural waste areas, and some handmade bunkers. So my question to them was, on a scale of 1 to 10, for the average golfer, what's this going to be? And they were somewhere 6, 7. So it's going to be a very playable 18 holes, and we're just excited about it. After we do that, we're going to take a little pause and see what plays like, how it works, and then decide on Indian Mound. Indian Mound may very well stay just like it is with the plumbing upgrades and grass and stuff, or it may become a par 3, 9-hole par 3 course. Sort of see what the market dictates and get a lot of public input on it. So that's sort of golf. And Bruce, I'll stop and take some questions.
That sounds fun.
Okay. The other 9 holes of Oleander we put into conservation. It's, I think our golf plan is online, but it will become Yank's property. And we're applying for some grants. We may go for a Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Act grant that I used to chair. We may go for some federal grants. Native wildlife, low impact area, bicycle paths, native grasses. We're going to use it in a way that it sort of be like low impact with trails and stuff. Yank and I are still working on
bike paths, maybe?
Bike paths, yeah, that kind of stuff. We don't want to just make it pretty and nobody get to see it, so we just haven't really he may have, but I'm still learning everything, so it may be a briefing he's got for me later. What I do know is it goes back into conservation. The amphitheater area.
It was so wonderful.
I've been over there twice, and living in Tallulah Falls, the other place we camped was a place called Deep Creek, which is up in Cherokee, North Carolina. So I saw Unto These Hills a lot. My mother played the nun that sings Climb Every Mountain at the Summer Playhouse in Helen. So the arts are sort of ingrained in me. I play the radio, but all the other are magicians. It's not that expensive a deal to fix it up. We just can't satisfy on what's the best use. I assure you I could get a concert promoter to come in here and spend $200,000 on that, and I don't know if any of y'all get any sleep at night that live on the island. So that's the thing I'm trying to balance. I don't know if you fix it up, it's not the money to fix it up, it's what's the end use going to be that I'm still wrangling with. I would love a theater group, but locally, unless a college adopts that, I mean, if you're going to put a theater on every night for like 3 months, you got to have a lot of actors, and you got to have it's a lot of staff. Pam and I go to the casino. Willy Wonka was great, by the way, if anybody got to see that they just did there on St. Simon's. But that small group, I don't know, would be capable of completing a full season of shows at that level. It's big. I've been over there twice. I actually videotaped it and sent it to some folks. So we'll keep that discussion going. It's not like it's just off the table and we're just going to let it go. We've talked with some of the hotelers about it maybe being another venue. You know, if it was cleaned up, behind the stage is beautiful, looking out over that pond and with the walkway. And so that's the first question I got asked at St. Simon's Rotary. As a matter of fact, Jones told us a year ago, and I said, well, it's been a year, and I hope it's not another year, but, you know, you put 25 or 2,000 people in there for a country concert once a month, you've about got shrimp and grits parking problems. And our capacity is always going to be limited because we're never going to have more than 2 lanes. And so coming on this island, which is a good thing. So I'll get back with you. I'm just being honest with you. Yeah. We just don't have the end game for that one.
Thoroughly enjoyed this.
Yeah. I don't know the answer, and I will always be honest with y'all. I don't know the answer other than maybe just logistics and capacity and employees. That's a great question. You guys heard me talk about it? I'm going to put my employees on the spot.
Shrimp and grits is a huge, huge undertaking, as y'all know. It's all staff-driven and a lot of volunteer hours. So I think it's just dialing it back to see how it was.
Yeah. I think what I've heard is there are hours that are more popular than other, and they just said, let's just concentrate it to the times people are going to be here, and then let them go home. I did notice, I was riding with Noel the other day, and I said, what are they doing? He said, putting up lights. I said, for what? He said, Christmas lights. I said, man, he said, it takes that long. So Holly Jolly is we brought the grandkids over here the last 2 years, and that's a fun event. I've been to all of them because I've been to Lake Lanier's, I've been to Stone Mountain's laser show. As DNR commissioner, my other duties were I served on the Jekyll Island Authority, the Stone Mountain Memorial Association, which is their authority, the Lake Lanier Islands Authority, Sapelo Island Heritage Authority, and the Sammy Short Line Authority. If any of y'all have ever ridden that sweet little railroad that goes from one of our parks to the plains. So I got to see them all, and really our Holly Jolly lights are second to none. And the experience with the trams and stuff. My mother's 86. She put the glasses on. She said, they put candy canes on that light pole. We pulled on that. She said, how many candy canes did y'all put up? So the lights, did anybody do it with the glasses? Anytime you saw light, candy canes came up in your thing. And I said, Mom, there's going to be candy canes when we go home on the cars if you keep those on. If you keep those on, sure enough. But anyway, it's a great experience. Tom, it came to me early on and said, let's get one of these old Henry Ford Model A, Model T, 8-seater cars. And I said, let's get 3 of them. I said, they're going to be a hit. And so we ordered one, and the only reason we ordered one, it should be here for Holly Jolly, was you had to pay for them up front. And I'm a guy that likes to give a little deposit, and then when I get the goods, pay for them. But the only game in town is Galveston, Texas, the only place that sells them. And so I said, well, we'll take a chance with this guy, and we'll send him this check. And if it works, then we'll send him. He just said, you got to send me everything. And so Marjorie and I feel pretty comfortable that we'll get our car here. And so it'll seat 8. It'll be priced a little higher than the tram, but it'll be a nice experience. And then we'll use it around during the day too. It'll have an interpreter on the car as well. So Pier Road, all those leases were scheduled to end at the same time. We're going to roll out our plan for Pier Road. Don't panic; it's not going to look like Margaritaville, but we wanted to be able to have the shops back at our level and staff level, and so we can make some. We've made some decisions. We're just not ready to go public with them. But you'll be very excited with the hours that they're open, with the type products that we're talking about putting there, and make it a better experience for, or a different experience for, we feel that will improve what the guests are experiencing down on the historic district. It's just going in a different direction. All those leases were scheduled to end at the same time for a reason, so we could make decisions at the JIA level if we wanted to go in a different direction with Pier Road and
Does that mean that you're not going to renew the leases?
what we said in the letter was we're not going to renew the current leases, and so we have a plan for Pier Road, and I don't want to get ahead of myself or staff, but within the month we'll be letting everyone know what our plans are.
Well, it seems to me that they all got a certified letter that said their leases were going to be terminated, that when you implemented that, you probably knew that, the residents would want to know what the plan was.
Yes, but we wanted to notify them first, and so they didn't get their letters till today. So we didn't talk about it at the board meeting because we didn't want, it's not fair to the lessees until they knew. And then we'll be going public with our plan real soon.
So it will be terminated, is that what you
Yes, ma'am. Those leases will end December 1. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Will any of those lessors be retained? Are they all going to be terminated?
That I'm not ready to answer right now. We've got an idea, JIA, we've got a great plan for what we want those shops to be, what the experience should be from one end to the other. And there may be some opportunities there, either as operators, not a lessee, but under the guidance of how we want that to go. Does that make sense? I'm not dodging you, and I'm not hiding anything from you. I really not. It's just we want JIA to make the decisions going forward from Pier Road, from one end to the other, how it's operated, what's done there under our guidance.
Any of the operators retaining control over their businesses there?
As I stand here tonight, I would say no. But not that they're bad operators. It's just we want, as an operator, they might be able to be there, but not as the leaseholder. Does that make sense? We're going to have people running those shops under the direction and the design and how we want them to be. Does that help at all?
A little bit, yes.
Okay.
It'll be clear next month.
Yes, I promise. Yes, sir.
Will we have a post office?
Yes, post office stays.
The old infirmary, did nothing ever materialize?
No, actually my wife, she's a Lily Pulitzer fan, not just a fan. But I know there were some discussions ahead of time. I've revived those discussions. I think that's a great tie-in to the historic part of this island, and they got a great product. We've talked with Wake Up Coffee before my time, and I think that got real close. We're hope to engage them back to Pier Road. I think that scared, I don't know them, and so I was not on the discussions, but I think maybe that's a big building that is very historic, and and you're coming in there as a guy that's serving coffee, and it had no build out in it, and it's expensive to turn a residence into a restaurant. But we have opportunities maybe on Pier Road. We'd love to have Wake Up Coffee here. They're a great company. And so if not Wake Up Coffee, something like that. If I was an orthopedic surgeon, I'd love it, but no, I'm kidding. I was on a trip 2 weekends ago, and the guy, his wife, had her first lesson and broke her collarbone. So that's why I say that. It's a great sport. And Lord, over on St. Simon's, they sit in those bleachers, and they're just sitting there watching their watch. They could build 10 more on there. We sent out, I believe Noel told me, an RFP to 3 or 4 for the site over there right across from, I get my hotels mixed up. Holiday Inn. And they all sort of seemed interested, and then they lost interest. And we talked about it at the board meeting. I don't know if that's the rising interest rates. I mean, the cost of borrowing money will make you lose interest in a lot of things. And so we're going to send it out again and see if those folks, we just didn't have the right person come up and say, yeah, I'll build these courts. We'd like to have some courts there with a little sandwich shop, hot dogs, and do it right. It's probably the growingest recreational sport in the nation. When I left DNR, they were a little bit behind, but they were looking at all the state parks for it. And it looks like a heck of a lot of fun. Do you play? Do you play?
I'm a tennis player.
A tennis player, there you go.
I'm looking out for the tennis.
There you go. Well, there is a little bit of that there. And I'm an ex-tennis player. I guess once you won, you're always one. But I think both sports can cohabitate on the island. And I am very proud of our tennis courts here. When I was little, I guess I played in the Morgan Center. Was that the indoor? You could rent tennis rackets, balls, and everything for $2 an hour or something. Of course, you could swim over there for $1 a year. So I remember those days. That's right. They kept you clean. I tell you, Bruce set the groundwork, and Tom took over, and it's been the historic programming and stuff. What'd I do? I get my names wrong?
No, it's just funny that he was talking about.
I'm still learning all my names, but it's this mosaic. I can remember before we even started on it, Bruce taking the board on a tour for it, and just the vision to do this, and it's so interactive. It keeps even my grandkids entertained, as does the Sea Turtle Center. But yeah, the living histories, I'm a fan of that. That's going to continue. And has Tom announced?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, well, Tom's sort of short term with me, and he's a retired educator, and I think sort of let it be known that when he took this job, he may not stay forever, because him and his wife like to do things and travel as retired folks do. So he's leaving us pretty soon, and so we'll be opening that up and hunting a replacement. Well, we've had 2 great ones in a row, and so we'll take great pains in finding the right person to lead us into the future historically. Am I forgiven? That's all that matters. I don't care if the speech was good. I like to be liked. as everybody does, and that's a little bit of an unforgivable sin because Bruce called me it's been on the calendar a while, and I packed too much in here, and I'm glad I got here tonight.